The first step to installing a hardtop on your existing framework is to level the bows to the finished height you'd like the hardtop to sit. Be sure to raise the centermost bows when installing to create a heightened area to strengthen the center of your hardtop. Next, locate and mark the center of each bow to help place the panels flush against each other. How you should place the two centermost panels is determined by whether you have an even or odd number of panels. An odd number of panels will have the panel marked center directly over the center line you marked earlier. An even number of panels will have the key panel and adjacent panel placed over the center line at the extrusions where they join. Each panel we ship is labeled from the center outward, noted with P for port and S for starboard. Start with one of each side and build out to the narrow, rounded outside panel. Once you have the center or key panel and first adjacent panel set on the framework, add a small bead of the included clear silicone on the underside of the top side E8 flange. Press the extrusions together, then place a clamp at the edges to keep the panels locked in place. Next, place a stainless steel loop clamp around the tubing of your frame, starting with the fore and aftmost bows. Be sure to check that the top flange of your extrusion pairs are facing outward, as improper shingling may cause water to enter your hardtop. Additionally, when marking holes for the centermost cross members of your frame, be sure to apply pressure below to slightly increase the height of the frame in the center. This reduces your chance of puddling in the center of the hardtop. Adjust the clamp so that it lines up with an extrusion pair. Use the hole in the clamp to mark the hole. You will use this to insert the screw to attach your panels to each other, as well as your hardtop to the clamp. Mark this hole to the outside where the flange overlaps facing out. This reduces water backup, and drilling is more difficult through the center of the material. Next, drill up through the extrusions, making sure to apply pressure on the top side to reduce separation between panels while drilling. Reach the hole and place a 1/4 Allen head screw in through the top of the hardtop. Place your neoprene seal washer on the underside of the screw to help hold it in place. Next, push your stainless steel clamp over your screw and twist on the 1/4-inch stainless steel nut. One way to tighten the nut is to hold the nut in place while using the Allen wrench to spin the screw into the nut. Tightening below is needed. You may also hold the screw in place with an Allen wrench and turn the nut below. Repeat these steps for each intersection of your frame in the aluminum extrusion pairs as you add each panel. Next, we will demonstrate how to install our Premier trim. If you are assembling a special trim hardtop, please skip to the next section of this video. The first step in installing our Premier trim is to set the first bowed HTE piece on the front or back edge depending on which you decided to start with. Center it as much as possible. If you are a little off-center, don't worry, as the corners can accommodate different amounts of engagement. After setting this bow, begin installing the cap clips to the centermost extrusion pair. Add a Torx head self-drilling screw to each hole in the cap clip, one to the extrusion pair and one to the HTE extrusion. Repeat this for all of the extrusion pairs. Now that you've attached the first, repeat these steps for the opposite HTE bow. Once completed, attach a corner to both sides of a straight HTE piece. Do not set these screws yet, as some adjustment may be needed once you begin to install. Adjust the corners so that they may slide onto the front and back HTE. Once they are set, engage the corners onto the extrusions as much as you can. Then set the corners with your self-drilled Torx head screws, one in the side and one in the bottom. If you'd like to orient the corners so that the screws are on the top, you may, but it will be more difficult to install. Repeat this step again for the other side, and again set the screws for the corners. If you are installing Ketter, please check our Ketter installation instructions. Otherwise, take one of your support straps and attach the bar to the outsidemost E8 extrusion pair and extend out to the side HTE bar. Try to space these to create equal distances between the fore and aft bowed HTE. Once you've inserted the strap into the HTE, add a cap clip to the support bar where it meets the HTE side. Add a self-drilling Torx screw to the cap clip on the strap, then against the HTE side. Continue this process for each support strap. Lastly, we will talk about installing our special trim. After you assemble your panels, you will see the white edge trim and straps are already installed. To prepare the material for the aluminum WSB edge, you will need to cut strips of the included black edge gasket between each E8 extrusion pair. You will then need to set the front and back aluminum edge onto the extrusions. Once you've centered and set the first edge, adjust each of the gaskets so that it sits flush inside the extrusion and onto the panel material. Next, add a self-drilling Torx head screw to each extrusion pair. If you have Ketter for a full enclosure, you will add it to the underside of the WSB and screw through both into the E8 extrusion pair. At this point, you may add additional self-drilling Torx screws to the side trim as needed. Lastly, if you need any help understanding our installation or have questions, feel free to call us and we'd be happy to help.